They taught you the meritocracy myth before you could even question it. In school, they showed you the ladder: work hard, get good grades, get a good job, get recognition, get success. A clean, linear progression where cause and effect operate with mathematical precision. Put in effort, receive reward. Demonstrate value, gain opportunity. The story is elegant, simple, and completely divorced from reality. The truth is that every system you operate within was designed by those already in power to maintain their power. They need you to believe in meritocracy because they need you docile, obedient, and self-regulating. If you believe success is just a matter of working harder, you'll exhaust yourself climbing their rigged ladders while they take elevators. If you believe fairness exists, you won't question why their mediocre children inherit positions you're infinitely more qualified for. If you believe someone will eventually recognize your worth, you'll wait forever instead of seizing what's yours. You were taught to be a good citizen, a team player, someone who follows the rules. And what are rules? They are simply the terms of surrender imposed by the victorious on the defeated. Every rule you follow that doesn't directly benefit you is a chain you voluntarily placed on your own neck. Every time you wait for permission, you are acknowledging someone else's sovereignty over your life. Every time you appeal to fairness, you reveal that you have already accepted your subordinate position in a hierarchy that will never elevate you. The most insidious part of this conditioning is that they made you police yourself. You don't even need external enforcement anymore because you've internalized the prison. When you have a bold idea, your own mind tells you to wait, to get approval, to make sure everyone's comfortable first. When you see an opportunity, your own conscience warns you about stepping on toes, about what people will think, about whether you've earned it yet. They've convinced you that your own ambition is somehow morally suspect, that your desire for power is a character flaw rather than the most honest impulse you possess. You wait for support because you were programmed to believe it's the prerequisite for action. The successful wait for no one. The powerful create their own conditions. The sovereign doesn't ask if he may, he simply does, and the world rearranges itself around his decision. What Machiavelli understood about the friendless path. Niccolo Machiavelli wrote The Prince not as a celebration of cruelty, but as an unflinching manual for those who must build power in a world hostile to their ascent. He understood something that makes comfortable people deeply uncomfortable. Virtue is not rewarded, force is respected. Goodness does not create kings. Strategic ruthlessness does. When Machiavelli advised that it is better to be feared than loved, he wasn't revealing a preference for tyranny. He was stating a mathematical truth about human nature and social dynamics. Love is conditional, fickle, and withdrawn the moment inconvenience appears. Fear is reliable. Respect born from demonstrated capability is permanent. The prince who relies on the affection of others is always one disappointment away from deposition. The prince who has made himself necessary, formidable, irreplaceable, sits secure on his throne regardless of whether anyone likes him. Here is what Machiavelli grasped about succeeding without support. Other people's support is always a liability disguised as an asset. When you build your rise on the foundation of someone else's favor, you are building on sand. Their priorities change, their fortunes reverse, their loyalties shift. And when any of these inevitable transformations occur, your entire structure collapses. But when you build on your own capability, your own resources, your own strategic positioning, you have created something that cannot be withdrawn, cannot be rescinded, cannot be taken away. The Machiavellian path is not about becoming evil. It is about becoming sovereign. It is about recognizing that in a world where everyone is pursuing their own interest, your moral obligation is to pursue yours with equal vigor and superior strategy. The moment you subordinate your ambition to someone else's approval, you have already declared them your master. This is why the Machiavellian operates alone until he is strong enough to dictate terms, not because isolation is pleasant, but because dependence is fatal. Every favor you accept creates an obligation. Every hand extended to help you is a hand that now has leverage over you. Every person whose support you rely on is someone who can destroy you by simply withdrawing what you never should have needed in the first place. You must become the architect of your own elevation, not through their resources, their networks, their blessing, but through your own ruthless accumulation of skills, leverage, and strategic position. When you finally arrive at power, you will arrive not as someone's protege or favorite or project, but as a force that had no choice but to be reckoned with. Phase 1. Kill the servant in your mind. Before you can build power externally, you must commit an act of psychological violence internally. There is a version of you that has been trained to serve, to defer, to seek approval, to make yourself small so others feel large. This version of you must die. Not metaphorically, not gradually. You must execute it with the same cold efficiency you would use to eliminate any other obstacle standing between you and your objectives. This servant lives in your automatic responses. When someone asks you to do something that doesn't serve you, and you say yes before you even think. When you have a bold idea, and you immediately imagine all the reasons someone might disapprove. When you accomplish something, and your first instinct is to downplay it, to share credit, to make sure no one feels threatened by your competence. Every single one of these responses is the servant speaking, and the servant is your enemy. The process of killing this part of yourself is uncomfortable because society has spent decades making you believe that the servant's voice is your conscience, your decency, your goodness. It is none of these things. It is simply the internalized voice of people who benefit from your subordination. When you hesitate to ask for what you're worth, that's not humility. It's them speaking through you. When you feel guilty about prioritizing your interests, that's not morality. It's their control mechanism functioning exactly as designed. Replace the servant with the sovereign. The sovereign asks, "Does this serve my objectives?" The sovereign evaluates every opportunity, every relationship, every commitment through the lens of strategic advantage. The sovereign does not do things to be liked. The sovereign does not waste resources on displays of virtue that generate no tangible power. The sovereign is not cruel for cruelty's sake, but neither is he bound by others' moral frameworks when those frameworks were specifically designed to keep him subordinate. This sounds sociopathic. Good. That means you're beginning to feel the death throes of your conditioning. The establishment calls self-interest sociopathy when exercised by those they wish to control, while calling it ambition when exercised by those already in power. You are simply learning to operate by the same rules that everyone above you has always operated by, rules they kept hidden from you under a veneer of fairness and meritocracy and teamwork. When you walk into a room, you will no longer scan for whose approval you need. You will assess who has leverage, who has resources, who can be useful. You will not ask if you're allowed to speak. You will speak with the authority of someone who has earned the right through capability, not permission. You will not wait to be noticed. You will make yourself impossible to ignore. The servant dies slowly in small moments of choosing your interest over their comfort. Each time you do this, you will feel guilt. That guilt is the servant's last weapon. Do not negotiate with it. Do not soothe it. Let it scream while you continue forward. Eventually, it weakens. Eventually, it goes silent. And in that silence, you will discover something extraordinary. The absence of the need for their approval is the beginning of actual freedom. Phase 2. Build your invisible empire. Power that announces itself is vulnerable to preemptive attack. Power that operates beneath the threshold of others' awareness is invincible until the moment of its revelation. While everyone else is performing success on social media, optimizing their personal brand, seeking visibility and validation, you will be building an empire in the shadows that makes their theatrical displays look like children playing dress-up. This is the phase where you accumulate skills with mercenary ruthlessness. Not the skills that look good on a resume, not the skills that earn praise from your superiors. The skills that create leverage, that make you irreplaceable, that allow you to operate independently of any single institution or individual's support. You are not learning to be a better employee. You are learning to be a power unto yourself. Study how systems work, not how they appear to work. The person who understands the actual mechanics of how decisions get made, how resources flow, how influence operates, has infinitely more power than the person who just works hard and hopes for the best. You need to see the invisible architecture of power in every institution you touch. Who really makes decisions? Where does money actually come from? What do people actually want versus what they claim to want? These answers are never in the employee handbook. Build financial independence like your life depends on it, because it does. Every month you cannot survive without their paycheck is a month they own you. Every financial obligation you take on without a clear strategic purpose is a chain that binds you to continued subordination. Live below your means not out of frugality, but out of strategic necessity. The moment you have 6 months of survival money, you have something infinitely more valuable than any job: the ability to say no, the freedom to walk away, the power to dictate terms. Create value that exists independent of your employer, your boss, your institution. Write, build, design, code. Create intellectual property. Develop expertise that makes you famous in your field to the people who matter. Even if no one at your current job knows what you're doing, you are not building a side hustle. You are building the foundation of your future sovereignty, the platform from which you will eventually launch yourself into a position where their support becomes irrelevant because you've made yourself the prize they compete for. Document everything. Not for protection, though that's useful. For pattern recognition. You are training yourself to see how the game actually works by watching how people actually behave when their interests are at stake. You will notice that the people who rise are not the most competent, but the most strategic. You will see that credit flows upward and blame flows downward with hydraulic efficiency. You will observe that loyalty is a weapon the powerful use to extract sacrifice from the subordinate while offering nothing binding in return. Each observation is a lesson in the real rules of the game. This phase is lonely because you cannot talk about what you're building. The moment you announce your independence project, you invite sabotage. The moment you reveal your growing capability, you trigger preemptive suppression from those who benefit from your current limitation. Secrecy is not paranoia, it is strategy. Let them think you're just doing your job while you're actually constructing the machine that will make their approval irrelevant. You are building leverage in silence. When you finally choose to reveal what you've built, it will not be a request for opportunity. It will be a demonstration of capability so undeniable that opportunity becomes inevitable. Phase 3. Master the art of strategic relationships. The Machiavellian does not avoid all relationships. That would be naive and counterproductive. But he completely transforms the nature of his relationships from emotional dependencies into strategic instruments. Every connection you maintain must answer one question: does this increase my capability, my options, or my strategic position? If the answer is no, the relationship is a luxury you cannot afford until you have secured your position. This does not mean you treat people as objects to be used and discarded. It means you stop treating relationships as sources of validation and start treating them as elements of your strategic architecture. The person you network with is not someone whose friendship you need for emotional comfort. They are someone whose knowledge, access, or capability increases your leverage in a specific domain. The distinction is everything. Cultivate relationships upward and laterally, never downward from a position of need. When you approach someone from a position of need, you have already lost. You are signaling scarcity, subordination, dependency. When you approach someone with something valuable to offer, with a capability that solves their problem, with a strategic position that benefits them, you are initiating a relationship of equals or even superiors. The moment you make someone your supplicant is the moment they begin resenting you. The moment you make someone your benefactor is the moment they begin controlling you. Learn to read people with clinical precision. Not what they say. Everyone lies about their motivations, even to themselves. Watch what they do when their interests are at stake. How do they treat people who can't benefit them? How quickly do they abandon previous positions when new incentives appear? How do they respond when challenged versus when flattered? Every person is a book of patterns waiting to be read, and literacy in human nature is the ultimate competitive advantage. Deploy reciprocity strategically. The weak help others, hoping for eventual return. The strong help others, knowing exactly what return they're engineering. When you do someone a favor, you are not being generous. You are making an investment. You are creating an obligation that you will call in precisely when it's most strategically valuable. This sounds manipulative. It is. It's also exactly what everyone in power is doing to you right now, except they've convinced you to call it networking instead of manipulation. Never reveal your full capability to anyone. The moment someone knows exactly what you can do, they know your limits, your price, your leverage points. Always be more capable than you appear. Always have skills in reserve. Always let them discover your depths gradually so they constantly recalibrate their assessment of your value upward. Mystery is power. Predictability is vulnerability. Most importantly, maintain the ability to walk away from any relationship at any time. The person who needs the relationship more has already lost every negotiation they will ever have in that relationship. Build your life so that no single relationship is critical to your survival or success. This doesn't mean you don't value people. It means you don't become hostage to them. At the end of this path is not a person people love. Let's be clear about that from the beginning. You will not be the most popular person in the room. You will not collect friends easily. People will find you intimidating, difficult, too intense, too serious, too focused on your objectives. You will make people uncomfortable simply by refusing to participate in the comfortable lies that make social life pleasant but power impossible. What you will become is sovereign. You will walk into rooms and people will feel the difference even if they can't articulate it. You will have the quiet confidence of someone who has tested themselves against the world and won not through their favor, but through sheer strategic superiority. You will speak with the authority of someone who has built their position brick by brick, with no help, no shortcuts, no handed opportunities. You will be free in a way that most people will never experience. Free from the constant anxiety of needing approval. Free from the degradation of performing gratitude for opportunities you've earned 10 times over. Free from the terror of someone withdrawing their support and watching your whole life collapse. You will own your position because you built it with your own hands from materials you gathered yourself on ground you claimed through demonstrated capability. People will respect you, but it will be the respect of fear, not love. They will respect you because they recognize you are operating at a different level, playing a different game, governed by different rules. They will know, instinctively, that you cannot be manipulated through the usual channels of approval or disapproval because you have systematically eliminated your dependence on both. You will be lonely sometimes. The path to sovereignty is not crowded. Most people prefer the comfort of subordination to the demands of independence. They prefer the safety of having someone above them making decisions, someone to blame when things go wrong. Someone whose approval gives their life meaning. You will have chosen differently. You will have chosen the burden of your own sovereignty, and that burden does not come with the consolations of belonging. But you will never again know the specific humiliation of begging for scraps from someone else's table. You will never again perform the degrading dance of trying to convince someone that you deserve a chance. You will never again feel the suffocating weight of knowing that your entire future depends on the whims of people who have no stake in your success and every incentive to keep you subordinate. You will have built yourself into the kind of person that institutions compete for rather than someone who competes for their recognition. You will have transformed yourself from someone who needs support into someone who provides it, from someone who seeks opportunity into someone who creates it. From subject to sovereign. Before you close this and return to the comfortable lies, Understand what you're choosing if you choose to do nothing. You're choosing to spend the rest of your life hoping that someone powerful enough to change your circumstances will decide to use that power on your behalf. You're choosing to wake up every day and perform optimism, telling yourself that today might be different while knowing, deep in the part of your mind you don't like to acknowledge, that nothing will change unless you change it. You're choosing to reach the end of your life having never known what you were actually capable of because you were too afraid to find out. You're choosing to be the person who had potential, who could have been something, who just needed that one break that never came. You're choosing to tell yourself stories about why it didn't work out, stories that carefully avoid the central truth. You waited for permission to become powerful, and permission never comes to those who wait for it. Every day you delay is a day your competitors are not delaying. Every moment you spend hoping is a moment someone else spends building. Every time you convince yourself to wait just a little longer for the right opportunity, someone else is creating their own opportunity and will be in position to deny you when you finally decide to stop waiting. The comfortable lies will kill you slowly. They will kill your ambition first, convincing you that wanting power makes you a bad person. Then they will kill your agency, convincing you that your circumstances are beyond your control. Then they will kill your time, making you wait for changes that will never come. And finally, they will kill your potential, ensuring that you die never having become what you could have been if you had just been willing to do what was necessary. This is not a call to recklessness. This is a call to clarity. See the world as it actually operates, not as you wish it operated. See yourself as you actually are, not as you perform yourself to be. And then make the ruthless calculation. Are you willing to do what it takes to succeed without support, without approval, without the comfort of belonging? Or will you spend your life hoping that the powerful will decide to be generous today? You now have a choice that you did not have before reading this. You can close this and pretend you never saw it. Return to the comfortable myths about meritocracy and fairness and eventual recognition. No one will blame you. Most people make that choice. It's easier. It allows you to remain the person you are, with all your accommodations and adaptations and carefully maintained relationships built on subordination disguised as teamwork. Or you can begin, not tomorrow, not when circumstances are better, not when you have more support. Now, today, this moment. You can make the decision that from this point forward, you will build your capability independent of anyone's approval, accumulate your leverage in silence, and transform yourself from someone who needs support into someone who is the support, someone whose capability is so undeniable that the world must rearrange itself around you, rather than you contorting yourself to fit their predetermined shapes. Subscribe to this channel not because you want entertainment. Subscribe because you are making a commitment to yourself that you will no longer participate in the comfortable lies.